Have you ever walked away from a first meeting feeling slightly off, but unable to explain why? Nothing obvious happened, no rude comments, no clear red flags, just a strange tension under the surface. They were kind, maybe even too kind. They laughed at the right moments, agreed with you a little too quickly, made you feel seen, understood, almost chosen. And yet something in your mind didn't relax. It stayed alert, quietly watching. That feeling isn't random. It's not insecurity. It's your brain detecting a mismatch between what is being shown and what is actually there. Because fake friends don't expose themselves through obvious mistakes. They reveal themselves through psychological leaks, tiny inconsistencies, subtle performances. And if you know how to read those signals, you don't need months or years to figure someone out. Sometimes one meeting is enough. Most people walk into a first interaction focused on one question. Do they like me? That question is the blindfold. Because the moment your attention turns inward, you stop observing outward. And that is exactly where manipulation thrives. Fake friends don't want you to study them. They want you to perform for them. They want your energy tied up in self-evaluation. Am I interesting enough? Did I say something wrong? Do they approve of me? While you're busy trying to be liked, they are busy studying you. There was a case of a young professional who met someone at a networking event. The connection felt instant. The other person mirrored her interests, agreed with her opinions, even finished her sentences at times. She walked away feeling flattered, seen, special. But later, when she replayed the conversation, something felt strange. She realized she had shared a lot about herself, but knew almost nothing real about the other person. That's the first psychological clue. Fake connection is often one-sided. It feels deep, but it's built entirely on your own disclosure. Real connection has friction. It has pauses, moments where two people don't perfectly align. But fake friends remove that friction. They smooth everything out. They become whatever version of a person you are most likely to trust, not because they genuinely are that person, but because they are performing that role. Another signal appears in how quickly intimacy is created. Genuine trust builds slowly. It has layers. It develops through consistency over time. But fake friends often accelerate this process. They skip steps. They create emotional closeness too fast. They might say things like, "I feel like I've known you forever," or share something deeply personal early on. It feels bonding. But psychologically, it's a shortcut. Because once emotional intimacy is established quickly, your brain lowers its defenses just as fast. There was a man who met someone during a difficult time in his life. Within one meeting, this new person seemed to understand his struggles perfectly. They offered comfort, validation, even loyalty. It felt like a rare connection. But within weeks, that same person began subtly controlling decisions, suggesting who he should avoid, questioning his other relationships, slowly isolating him. What felt like deep understanding in the beginning was actually early positioning. The trust wasn't earned. It was engineered. You can also detect fake friends by watching their reactions when the spotlight is not on them. Pay attention to what happens when you talk about something important to you. Do they listen, or do they redirect? Do they show curiosity, or do they quickly bring the conversation back to themselves? Fake friends are often excellent performers when they are the center of attention. But when they are not, their engagement drops, because their interest isn't in you. It's in the role they are playing. There is a subtle psychological test you can observe. Introduce a small disagreement. Nothing confrontational, just a slight difference in opinion. Real people will stay grounded. They may disagree, but they remain consistent. Fake friends, however, often shift instantly. They align with you again. Not because they change their mind, but because agreement is part of their strategy. Their goal is not truth, it's approval. Another example comes from a university student who noticed something unusual about a new classmate. In their first meeting, the classmate agreed with every opinion she shared. Music, movies, even personal values. At first, it felt like a perfect match, but then she tested it. She deliberately stated an opinion she didn't fully believe in. Something controversial. The classmate agreed again without hesitation. That was the moment she realized she wasn't meeting a real personality. She was meeting a reflection. Fake friends are masters of emotional mirroring. They study your tone, your beliefs, your vulnerabilities, and then reflect them back to you. This creates the illusion of similarity, and similarity builds trust. But the key difference is this: real similarity reveals itself naturally over time. Fake similarity is immediate, intense, and often too perfect. Another powerful signal is how they handle boundaries. In a first meeting, boundaries are subtle. They show up in small ways. How much space they give you. How they respond when you say no to something. Fake friends often test these boundaries early. Not aggressively, but quietly. They might push for more personal information, ask slightly intrusive questions, or create situations where you feel pressured to agree. A woman once shared that during her first meeting with someone, she felt slightly uncomfortable when they asked very personal questions too early. She brushed it off as friendliness, but over time she realized that this pattern continued. The person consistently crossed emotional boundaries, always framing it as care or curiosity. That first moment wasn't random. It was a preview. Your discomfort is data, not weakness. When something feels off, even subtly, your brain is picking up patterns that your conscious mind hasn't fully processed yet. Fake friends rely on your ability to ignore that feeling, to rationalize it, to tell yourself you're overthinking. There is also something deeply revealing in how they talk about others. Listen carefully, not just to what they say, but how they say it. Fake friends often present themselves as victims in every story. Everyone else is difficult. Everyone else is wrong. They are always the misunderstood one. This creates sympathy. It lowers your guard. But it also reveals a pattern. Because if every past relationship ended badly, you are not hearing random events. You are hearing a personality structure. A man once became close to someone who constantly spoke about how people had betrayed him. Friends, colleagues, even family. At first, it seemed like he had just been unlucky. But over time, the same pattern repeated. The moment there was a minor conflict, he would shift the narrative, turn himself into the victim, and slowly push the other person away. What sounded like vulnerability in the beginning was actually a warning. Another psychological clue lies in emotional consistency. Real people are stable in subtle ways. Their tone, their reactions, their energy, it has continuity. Fake friends, however, often have slight inconsistencies. Moments where their behavior doesn't match their words. A smile that feels slightly delayed. A compliment that feels slightly rehearsed. These are microsignals, easy to ignore, but powerful when you start noticing them. It's like watching an actor who hasn't fully mastered their role. Most of the performance is convincing, but occasionally something slips. A line feels forced. A reaction feels out of sync. Fake friends operate in a similar way because maintaining a persona requires effort, and effort eventually leaks. There is also the question of intention. Real friendships are not strategic. They are not calculated step by step. They evolve naturally. Fake friendships, on the other hand, often have a hidden objective. It might be social status, emotional control, access to something you have. And while that objective is not visible directly, it shapes their behavior. It creates patterns. For example, someone who is primarily interested in status will show heightened attention when others are watching and reduced attention when they are not. Someone who is interested in control will subtly guide conversations, decisions, and perceptions. These patterns are visible even in a first meeting. If you are not distracted by the need to be liked, the deeper truth is uncomfortable. Fake friends don't succeed because they are exceptionally deceptive. They succeed because most people are not observing. They are performing, trying to be accepted, trying to fit in, trying to avoid rejection. And in doing so, they miss the signals that are right in front of them. Spotting a fake friend in one meeting is not about becoming paranoid. It's about shifting your focus from being evaluated to observing, from seeking approval to reading behavior, from asking, "Do they like me?" to asking, "What are they showing me?" Because the truth is, people reveal themselves very quickly, not through what they say, but through how they say it, through what they prioritize, through how they respond when things don't go perfectly. You don't need dramatic moments to understand someone. You need attention. And once you start paying attention, something changes. You stop being easily impressed by charm. You stop confusing intensity with authenticity. You stop mistaking performance for connection. You begin to see patterns. And patterns don't lie. The most dangerous fake friends are not the ones who eventually betray you. They are the ones you never question in the beginning. The ones who feel perfect too quickly. The ones who seem to understand you without earning that understanding. Because by the time the truth becomes obvious, the emotional investment is already there. But if you can learn to recognize the subtle signals early, everything shifts. You protect your energy, your time, your trust, and most importantly, your sense of reality. Because in a world where people can imitate connection so convincingly, your greatest defense is not intelligence, it's awareness. If this resonated with you, subscribe for more. Until next time, look closer.